Hello, good evening, greetings and salutations. I hope that everybody is doing well and had a good day. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I figured if I'm going to read it, then why not do it in video and have it saved either way? And it's kind of been on my heart lately to do this, and I want to talk about briefly that something everybody has missed in the headlines. Just another piece of the puzzle. And I've had more Truman moments lately that I'm gonna let sit for a minute and see, let them kind of unfold. But I'll probably do a vlog shortly here. But anyways, it's been on my heart pretty steady to just try and really overcome and buckle down and discipline myself. But the more I try to do that with myself, the angrier other people get at me. And I know people might not, to other people it might not look the same, or the intention might not show the same, but I suppose, that's the same way. You're never going to know truly unless you're inside somebody. You're not going to know why they're doing things, but once things unfold all the way and you can look back on them, then you can say, oh, okay, this is why this person did that, or maybe this is why this happened. And because I'm learning that way, I apologize for the pauses. Like I said, these haven't been planned. Not at all, really. Um, but things just have popped into my head that I've been meaning to devote whole videos to, or at least segments to, that I think people really need to know about. And whether there's one person that shows up or 100,000, um, hopefully that butterfly effect will keep working and propelling outward, and these videos will reach people. Because people need to know the truth, and we need to be able to discern what that means. Um, and I don't want to have to look back, right? The whole point of warning people is so they change their ways, like we read in Jonah earlier today. And so, in my own journey, um, deciding to be more disciplined and buckled down, I fail pretty much every day still. Like, I know this. Um, and I know that it was mentioned today that I raised my voice, and I think I've said this is my biggest problem, and I'm pretty sure I know I've mentioned it to my priest in confession. Um, that since 2019, when everything kind of climaxed and um, I fell from grace, and then the assault happened. Uh, that's no easy thing to overcome for anybody. But the whole goal was to make the effort so my children can see that change is possible, um, through the grace of God, and that we should be giving each other that grace. However, when we see people are doing things wrong, it is a loving thing to do to point it out, but it's all in our delivery, right? But at this point, time is short, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a little righteous anger as long as it's not misplaced. And if you have to be firm or raise your voice to interrupt their seemingly scripted rhetoric, and it doesn't matter what it's about, even if it's something personal, it's just the same things over and over. And I'm the same way. Like, I know I fall into that, and I know I need stopped in the middle of that, um, especially because of like what I've come to know is a form of PTSD. So we're all traumatized here, right? And because of that, we need to try and prevent that from happening to other people. But now what we're looking at is wars, rumors of wars, and euthanasia and genocide on a massive scale, and covert persecution and overt persecution, and misinformation about who's actually being persecuted. Everything is the opposite of what they're actually saying, and you have to dig for real news. Excuse me. But that's kind of the point. They want you to have to do that. So I'm going to show you something that I think everybody needs to see, and you need to really self evaluate, because war is bad for everyone involved, no matter what's happening. And Zelensky receiving the Oscar from Sean Penn, like, that's just a mockery. And people are still shelling out their hard earned money. Like this is some type of money laundering on a massive scale. And I don't even know that much about that type of thing. But if we are giving arms to one nation and then, or wait, somebody's giving us a loan, right? And then we're giving them arms, or vice versa. And then they're buying it back off of us. It's again, it's making the most of the resources, right? Making money while there's people being displaced one way or another, whatever's happening behind the scenes. And they're very careful about what they show you on the screen. And I don't mean to come off harsh, but if people are losing their lives, that is disgusting behavior. And I don't care who does it. It's gross. And being tucked away for pretty much 6 years and longer because I was out of work. It's hard. It's shocking to the system to go back out into the workforce. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean everyone's so hard and their hearts are hardened, and no one really has any compassion or care. And I don't mean just for me, I mean for each other, in the way that they speak, and in the way that, we treat our bodies. It's just, I look around and I see so much pain like that. I see that for sure. But I also, people have murder in their hearts, like they just do. And I'm not saying I am Christ, and I'm not saying I am like Christ, but I want to be like him. And I've prayed for union with him. And I say the prayer of humility every night. And I still have miles to go before I sleep. So I know how hard it is to break through a heart like that. So I want to show you something. And if this doesn't make you reevaluate sending money to foreign nations and cheering for one side or the other like it's a football game, weep, weep. The definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and that's voting. And they're going to end that because they know that most people have caught on. That'll end one way or another, which would be good, right? It'd be good to have a fair council and not one or two people in charge of everything. That's dangerous when you give a person that much power, because then they get it in their heads that they're pretty much God of the earth. And for all intents and purposes, they are. And we give them that. So everyone is culpable. There is no one here that has clean hands. No one. I want to show you this because nobody has talked about it. And I mentioned it, and it deserves its own video. And I'm allowed to have the freedom of speech and freedom of the press or whatever, because that's what they've turned social media into. Just because I don't have sponsors doesn't mean the same things don't apply to me. The UN and the WHO are of the devil. Like there is no other word for it. So why don't you tell me, if we are so at war and so angry with other nations, but we pause to do this? Now, back in the day, in the Civil War era, they really would like blow a trumpet, and it was a little more distinguished. There was order to it and strategy, and it was like chess. This, and if you've never seen the movie Glory, I recommend you go see it. It's a movie about the Civil Wars, or Civil War from the 1980s. It's pretty good. There's a few better ones, but it's not bad. Um, so this is from the WHO, and it says the humanitarian pause is vital for critical polio vaccination campaign in the Gaza Strip. Tell me why they're doing this. I don't, go ahead, tell me, please. Is there actually a war taking place? Why would we have men on the ground when we have drones now and alleged satellites and what do they call it? Lasers of God or rays of God, rods of God, that they can just zap things away with? You really think they're having an old timey war? No, those are headlines to cover this up. This is what they're doing. And I don't know exactly to say, okay, it's Palestinians that they're doing it to. I would bet 10 to 1 that it's Christian Palestinians that it's happening to. And I'm not pro Palestine and I'm not pro Israel. I'm pro harmony, people living in harmony and abiding by being able to govern yourself and abiding by basic fundamentals like foundational things. Don't manipulate somebody else to do something with their body that is going to do them harm. Don't purposely and intentionally cause physical harm to somebody. And mental harm and spiritual harm and financial harm, those are bad enough too. Not the same scale. And that's why I like Catholic doctrine, because it tells you there's two different kinds of judgment and there's two different kinds of law. Well, a few different kinds of law. There's moral law that every man is born knowing. It's inherent. Even people without faith. Humanitarian pause is vital for critical polio vaccination campaign in the Gaza Strip. 2 rounds of a polio vaccination campaign are expected to be launched at the end of August and September 2024 across the Gaza Strip to prevent the spread of circulating variant type 2 poliovirus. I'm not a doctor. You're researching with me. This is not medical advice. I do not give medical advice. That is in the channel description, and it's in the description of every video. Moving on. The WHO and UNICEF request all parties to the conflict to implement humanitarian pauses in the Gaza Strip for 7 days to allow for 2 rounds of vaccination campaigns to take place. You getting the feeling that that word doesn't mean what they're saying it means? Like it's a substitute for something else? Somebody, if you have Siri, ask Siri what that word really means. Or the AI friend, where the one guy was talking to it and changed no to apples and yes to cell phones or whatever. My son got a message from my sister, and I didn't even know they were talking. And I know I was supposed to see the message, because it happened when I was right there or whatever. And that's all it said is, "Did you get your injectable?" This was planned like way far in advance, and it's kind of mucked up that it was. And that's the thing. God's gonna end up having the last word, and people should read their Bibles correctly. And I'm kind of tired of the passive aggressive. I pray for everybody, but we all get things right and we all get things wrong. And just like we heard in Jonas today, Jonah, he was telling people to repent, and he got upset with God and told God to just kill him because God changed his mind, and he knew he was what they would say about him eventually. Once the fear wore off, right? And you forget and you go back to sleep. He knew they would call him a false prophet. Prophet didn't mean seer or oracle. It meant a harbinger. Like, look, this is coming. This is gonna happen if we don't do this, this, and this. We are all accountable, especially those of us who are above the age of reason, and that is like 8. Everyone here is accountable, but especially right now, and I hate to say it, the younger generation, and I know they're blaming us, and I know that's happening, but they've been so manipulated and so used, and they don't want to hear that because I know when I was that age, I thought I knew it all, and my mom didn't know what she was talking about, and my dad was just strict and stuffy or whatever. Why are they doing this? These pauses in fighting would allow children and families to safely reach health facilities and community outreach workers to get to children who cannot access health facilities for polio vaccination. Because that's so prevalent now, right? And that's everywhere. Do you know what happened? Look that up on YouTube. I'm pretty sure the videos are still up. Look that up. And what happened to some of those people? They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And I'm speaking from experience. I got an injectable and I haven't been right since. And I don't mean this round, I mean as a child, and then I stopped getting everything, and then I had to get one when I worked in healthcare. And I don't know, at this point, I don't know if it like blinds you or what, but it seems to do something spiritually too. That's why I say our spirit is connected to our body. During each round of the campaign, the Palestinian ministry. So tell me this, riddle me this, Batman. If all these people, if there's war happening around them, you think this is the first thing on their mind? Why don't you have a triage unit set up for citizens and civilians who are being hit, and when there's no need for that to happen if we have these great satellite and drone AI powered weapons? Why do we need anyone to even enlist at this point? What are they actually doing? I have my suspicion about that. I'm not going to get into it right now, but it'll take a really strong individual, or maybe an honorable individual, for me to ever trust anyone in a uniform again. And that's sad to say. Like, it shouldn't be that way. I can't even read any more of this. I don't know why they're doing this. Over 1.6 million doses will be delivered to the Gaza Strip. Oh my God. This is heinous. Like, this is what's happening. This is the news. After all the damage that this has caused to people, how this has injured people, all the cases and all of the presentations in front of Congress telling people, all the people who are injured from it, this is so not okay. And if it doesn't make you righteously angry, please examine your heart, because you will have that illumination of conscience, and it is not fun, because I've been going through it for several years. that also doesn't mean I am harder on myself than I am on anyone else, but again, God has asked me to kind of do a thing, and I've got to do it, and I'm doing it because of love. And again, I know people don't see that, But the whole point of me getting back out there was to try to make an impression on people. And these are people I know who, in their hearts, have murder in them. Like, I know this. I'm going to show you a really cool piece of artwork. And then I'm going to do a reading that I'll hopefully get through a little bit of. It's late, but I don't sleep that great anyway. And I took a tumble at work. And I've been just kind of not able to get comfortable at all day, no matter what I do. And I am working on my complaining, so I'll just say that I am as okay as usual. I just, of course, I'm embarrassed. Yeah, so this is Micah, and I started a picture when I moved into this house, and I've never finished it, but it's a woman's pregnant womb, and the child's name is Micah, or the picture's name is supposed to be Micah. Now, I don't know if I'll get through this. It's not a lot, like for considering, but it's a lot. Now, I'm kind of going in order, and please remember, if you are from a different theology, be open to the fact that some of these things have occurred and some of these things will occur. Most of these things from Old Testament prophets, you have kind of a mixture. And so I'm also going to do a reading on Daniel, which is one of my favorites. And I know a lot of people like that as they think it talks about the Mandela effect. I'm going to address something regarding that probably when I read that. But I don't know. People have been trying to get me to go along with that for many years since it was even before it was mentioned. And I just don't understand the end goal in that. But moving on. In this prophecy, Micah foretells both the impending destruction of the Jewish people for their sins and the reestablishment of the Davidic kingdom through the mercy of God. I apologize, Sammy's snoring, if anyone ends up listening to this. I don't click on it anymore because I don't want to be distracted by numbers or who's watching or not watching. The time of Micah, and what's been going through my head the last few days is to feed my children. God's kind of been saying, feed my children. And the verse, man cannot live on bread alone, has just been like running nonstop in my head. And so I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to our electric or the grid up here. But if you pay attention to the events across the nation, I have been sharing them on the community page. And again, it's all these, it's the coastal areas. And when this began for me, that was the first set of dreams that I had and that I talked about eventually, was cities, inland cities getting really flooded. And I'm going to tell you all something that I don't tell everybody. I don't tell people because witches can bind you if they know your name. And that's why they all change theirs all the time, which I don't consent to. And Christ breaks the chains of any and all curses. They have to bow to him. So I don't really believe in that myself. But I don't really give this name out. But nobody knows the order of it. And some of us have many names that God gives us, literally just to protect us. And I don't mean that I have aliases and social media accounts everywhere and that I carry a variety of different IDs. That's not what I'm talking about. But anyway, God had given me a new name. And unfortunately, it was Helene. And that is the devastating earthquake or hurricane, which is weird because I'm hearing it was only a level 1 or 2, but there's reportedly all this really bad damage. Again, it's like they're just hurting people from one area to another. I hope it was natural, as sad as that is to say, as opposed to something propagated by men whose egos are much too big. We really need to put the brakes on a lot of this technology because we are like children who've opened Pandora's box. And until we stop dabbling in things we're dabbling in, we are going to be under judgment. Like that's just it, that's what it is. And God has not been wrong on anything he's brought to me. So it's not a deceiving spirit. I test the spirit, I take it back to the word, and everything matches up. And what comes after the flooding, the dream that I had next, was the earthquake dream. And again, I don't know if it was literal or I know it was definitely spiritual and I know it was definitely personal and on a national level. Will it actually happen? I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it was just a dream. It wasn't, it was quite the experience to me, but, anyways. The time of Micah, the word of the Lord that came to Micah, the Morasite, in the days of Johann, Achaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. God's anger against Samaria and Judah. Hear, all ye people, and let the earth give ear in all that is therein. Now again, even if some of these prophecies have occurred, unfortunately, they're repetitive lessons for us because we can always take something away from them. Natural law never changes. Moral law never changes. Covenant laws like clothing and dietary laws sometimes change, but moral laws don't change. And let the Lord God be a witness to you, the Lord from his holy temple, for behold, the Lord will come forth out of his place, and he will come down and will tread upon the high places of the earth, and the mountains shall be melted under him. See, that's an end day prophecy. And the valley shall be cleft as wax before the fire, and as the waters that run down a steep place. And this is not anti-Semitic, and I don't mean but, this is just the truth. They haven't accepted Christ yet. They haven't accepted the redemption and salvation that comes with that. They are still under a curse that they place themselves under at Golgotha at the cross. And I mean, all you got to do is read it. It's there. Why you'd curse yourself and your children like that, I don't know. And it just shows how like madness can overtake you if you're so stuck in your pride. It's sad. Most of us have been there in one shape, way, or form by now. Okay, sorry. So, for behold, the Lord will come forth out of his place, and he will come down and will tread upon the high places of the earth, and the mountains shall be melted under him, and the valley shall be cleft as wax before the fire, and as the waters that run down a steep place. For the wickedness of Jacob is all this, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the wickedness of Jacob? Is it not Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Are they not Jerusalem? Their punishment. And I will make Samaria as a heap of stones in the field when a vineyard is planted. And I will bring down the stones thereof into the valley, and will lay her foundations bare. And all her graven things shall be cut in pieces, and all her wages shall be burnt with fire, and I will bring to destruction all her idols. For they were gathered together of the hire of a harlot, and unto the hire of a harlot they shall return. Ooh, that's fire. Pause. I'm going to read to you the footnotes down at the bottom. It says her wages, i.e., presents offered to her idols of the hire of a harlot. They were gathered together by one idolatrous city, Samaria, and they shall be carried away to another idolatrous city, Nineveh. Okay, so for their idolatry, they are being judged. Now, idolatry is the worst transgression, at least according to the Old Testament. I think there's a lot of reasons for this, and I think it's because I don't think arrogance is not godly. Like if you look at Christ, there's nothing arrogant there. God is dealing with the people, right? And there is a lot of stuff that's not in the Bible. You're not in there. I'm not in there. Most likely, we're not in there. But there are some people in here to show human history and how we kind of go from the carnal, like dealing with our bodies and how to move in this world, and then Christ teaches us, the New Testament moves to the more spiritual. I don't think God is jealous because he's jealous of us or of the other God. That has that's gotten to be like a bad connotation, that whole verse there. It is for our own safety and our own good, because he knows that these beings will bring us to ruin, and he does not want to lose us. He wants us to remain his children. But also, a good father disciplines his children. When you are loved and your parent is in the role of active parent, they will take something away from you if you have been disrespectful. They will take away your Game Boy or your Xbox or your PS or your Alienware. That's what they should do. So this is fire. So it says, therefore I will lament in how I will go stripped and naked. I will make a wailing like the dragons and a mourning like the ostriches, because her wound is desperate, because it is come even to Judah. It hath touched the gate of my people, even to Jerusalem. Declare ye it not in Geth, weep ye not with tears. In the house of dust sprinkle yourselves with dust, and pass away. O thou that dwellest in the beautiful place, covered with thy shame, she went not forth that dwelleth in the confines. The house adjoining shall receive mourning from you, which stood by herself. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. When it's talking about her in a very generic term like this, it's talking about a nation or a city, right? Or a vessel. Because things like that men call hers, because they hold people, right? A church holds people in its womb. A ship holds people in its whatever a ship has. So that is why cities hold a people in the confines of their walls and gates. So right there it was talking about anyone who was doing fellowship with this nation is also going to pay. Man, this is so timely for what is going on between Ukraine and Russia and China and Japan and Taiwan and Ukraine, or did I say that one already? Israel and everybody else. This is just, and again, who's going to come and offer peace? Do you know? We know. We know. Remember, God gave Noah an ark. Our ark is Christ. All right? We are to endure until the end, no matter what happens. Okay? No matter how long we are here for, we don't lose our faith, because that puts shame to everyone who went before us and lost their life for truth. What does liberty and freedom matter if it's not true? If it's not built on a strong foundation of truth? And I guess America's foundation wasn't that strong. And I love my country and I love my children like so much. It is taking every ounce of everything that I have not to force myself into their lives, but that's not what we do. So I spend hours upon hours praying for them. That doesn't make me great at all. It just means I have really bad knees at this point, and God is good. He will hear our prayers one way or another. And if He answers them in unexpected ways, again, we are to call it good. We have an inheritance coming, but things need dealt with first. Okay, so it was telling us that it won't be just that one city, it will be the other one too. Okay. So it says, the house adjoining you shall also receive mourning from you, which stood by herself, for she is become weak unto good that dwelleth in bitterness. For evil is come down from the Lord into the gate of Jerusalem. Funny how USA is inside of Jerusalem. Funny how I said 6 years, well, probably 4 years ago on the channel for the first time that America was Israel, and that Golgotha, Skull Rock, is in Joshua Tree, and that we are Babylon because Egypt is here too. Apparently, it's in the Grand Canyon. I don't know. Funny how the middle of the United States is pretty empty on the map. All the people that go missing and all that stuff. There's like this one area of mountains where there's nothing. Moving on. A tumult of chariots hath astonished the inhabitants of. Okay, these old city names are wild. The inhabitants of Lachi, it is the beginning of sin to the daughter of Sion, for in thee were found the crimes of Israel. So, yeah, it's more than just them getting dealt with. Therefore shall she send messengers to the inheritance of Geth. I think they're talking about Gethsemane. The houses of lying to deceive the kings of Israel. Yet will I bring an heir to thee that dwellest in Maresa, even to Adullam shall the glory of Israel come. Okay, so here we go. It says, verse 9, when it said, it hath touched the gate, that means the destruction of Samaria shall be followed by the invasion of my people of Judah, and the Assyrians shall come and lay all waste, even to the confines of Jerusalem. Verse 10, declare ye it not in Geth. That means among the Philistines, lest they rejoice at your calamity. He's saying, weep not, keep in your tears, that you may not give your enemies an occasion on which to insult you. Meaning, gird up your loins, be strong, don't harden your heart, right? Still love, but you have to harden your resolve and stand firm. But in your own houses, or in your house of dust, your earthly habitations, sprinkle yourselves with dust and put on the habit of penitence. Yeah, it's telling you to be repentant. Some take the house of dust in Hebrew Ephrath to be the proper name of a city. Okay. Are they saying like city of dust? I'll have to do a study into that. Verse 11, thou that dwellest in the beautiful place, i.e. in Samaria. In the Hebrew, the beautiful place is expressed by the word sapir, which some take for the proper name of a city. She went not forth. Example, they that dwelt in the confines came not forth, but kept themselves within because of fear. Now it's saying the house of adjoining, i.e., Judea and Jerusalem, neighbors to Samaria, and partners in her sins, shall share also in her mourning and calamity. And now remember, idol worship was also one of the worst things you could do, because they were sacrificing to false idols. And they were sacrificing things worse than, like, I'm going to sacrifice eating meat or coffee or chocolate. No, they were sacrificing people. Not all the time, I don't think. I wasn't there, but it seems to be a pretty common theme, unfortunately. Why would you do that to your child? I don't know, and I participated in my way. Okay, so now this is where it gets rough. Make thee bold and be bold for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy boldness as the eagle, for they are carried away into captivity for thee. So that means, but in vain, right? Now he's telling them here he was going to bring an heir to take possession of their inheritance, right? Again, the last will be first, and the first shall be last. And that the glory of Israel shall be obliged to give place and to retire even to Adullam, a city in the extremity of their dominions. And therefore he exhorts them to penance. So, chapter 2, the sins of Israel. Woe to you that devise that which is unprofitable and work evil in your beds. Ooh, my. In the morning light they execute it because their hand is against God, and they have coveted fields and taken them by violence, and houses they have forcibly taken away, and oppressed a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. Ooh, that's rough. Punishment for their sins. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I devise an evil against this family, from which you shall not withdraw your necks, and you shall not walk haughtily, for this is a very evil time. In that day a parable shall be taken up upon you, and a song shall be sung with melody by them that say, we are laid waste and spoiled. The portion of my people is changed. How shall he depart from me, whereas he is returning that will divide our land? Therefore thou shalt have none that shall cast the cord of a lot in the assembly of the Lord. All right, so what that means, because I know this one is a little harder. It says, how shall he depart means, how do you pretend to say that the Assyrian is departing when indeed he is coming to divide our lands among his subjects? So they're deceiving the people, right? Thou shalt have none. You shall have no longer any lot or inheritance in the land of the people of the Lord, right? This is his judgment. This is what these are his terms. It shall not drop. Example, the prophecy shall not come upon these. Such were the sentiments of the people that were unwilling to believe the threats of the prophets. Wow, and today we call it like music drops and mic drops. That's funny. So God is saying, this is what's going to happen because you didn't listen, because you mocked the prophet instead of changing your ways. Impiety of the house of Jacob. Speak ye not, saying, it shall not drop upon these, right there. Confusion shall not take them. So God's saying, oh, you're saying confusion won't take them? Wow, here we go. So watch this. Reminds me of that Dionysus, because he is the god of pleasure, and he is also the god, or the little g god deity of confusion and insanity. So it said, it shall not drop upon these, confusion shall not take them. The house of Jacob saith, is the spirit of the Lord strained, or are these his thoughts? Are not my words good to him that walketh uprightly? But my people, on the contrary, are risen up as an enemy. You have taken away the cloak off from the coat, and them that passed harmless you have turned to war. So, again, this is justice. He's saying you have harmed people, you have taken from the poor. That's what he's saying when he says about taking the coat. You have cast out the women of my people from their houses, in which they took delight. You have taken my praise forever from their children. Arise ye and depart, for there is no rest here for you. For that uncleanness of the land, it shall be corrupted with a grievous corruption. Would God I were not a man that hath this spirit, and that I rather spoke a lie? I will let drop to thee of wine and of drunkenness, and it shall be this people upon whom it shall drop. Dionysus was also the god of wine and drunkenness. That's bizarre. So God is saying, hey, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is the demon or the dominion that you're going to fall to, basically. That's what I gathered from that. Promise, and now here's the promise of restoration, right? I will assemble and gather together all of thee, O Jacob. I will bring together the remnants of Israel. I will put them together as a flock in a fold, as the sheep in the midst of the sheepcotes. They shall make a tumult by reason of the multitude of men. For he shall go up that shall open the way before them. They shall divide and pass through the gate, and shall come in by it, and their king shall pass before them, and the Lord at the head of them. So that's an awesome prophecy right there. Okay, so let's explain a little bit of that because this is a good footnote that might help you. Verse 11, would God, the prophet could have wished out of his love to his people that he might be deceived in denouncing to them that these evils that were to fall upon them. That's how I felt. But by conforming himself to the will of God, he declares to them that he is sent to prophesy, literally to let drop upon them the wine of God's indignation. Drunk, they will receive his wrath, with which they should be made drunk, that is, stupefied and cast down. Made drunk. Wow. Okay. That's weird. I'm sorry. This is also surreal. I've said that too. Weird. I said, like, I didn't want to be doing this. Like, I wish that I was just crazy, but something is definitely coming and happening, and our way of life has changed, and people have changed. COVID damaged a whole generations of people in a variety of ways, some with their social development. It's tragic, really. Okay. Chapter 3, Sins of Sion's Leaders. Oh no. And I said, hear, O ye princes of Jacob, and ye chiefs of the house of Israel. That's the world leaders, okay? Is it not your part to know judgment? You that hate good and love evil, that violently pluck off their skins from them and their flesh from their bones, who have eaten the flesh of my people and have flayed their skin from off them, and have broken and chopped, okay, this is rough, chopped their bones as for the cattle and as flesh in the midst of the pot. Then shall they cry to the Lord, and he will not hear them, and he will hide his face from them at that time, as they have behaved wickedly in their devices. Wow. I don't even know what to say about that. Because, like I said, verses have like 3 different iterations or interpretations, and one of them is spiritual, and another one is rather literal. So I think I'm just going to move on. False prophets. Thus saith the Lord concerning the prophets that make my people err. Now, false prophets, okay, let's be clear. Jonah wasn't a false prophet. His prophecy did not come because they repented, and God told him this, and that was pretty clear. They knew they were doing wrong enough that they had to repent. They knew it in their hearts that it was true. Okay, so false prophets are people who do it for money, prosperity gospel, people who tell you everything's going to be great, it's all going to be all good, everything's fine, when they know rain is coming. That's like a meteorologist telling you it's going to be sunny every day and just a mild temperature of like 72, and it's going to be a beautiful, perfect day every day. And it rains like 50% of the time, and you know this. And they make God's people err. That's the thing. They were dabbling in things that they knew they were doing that were wrong, and they should not have been dabbling in them. Much like we're seeing today. Again, that blood over intent thing that went over real big several years ago on YouTube. I mean, you see some of them kids now, I feel bad. I don't know what to think. Everybody is so confused. And again, it's also part strategic. So, moving on. Thus saith the Lord concerning the prophets that make my people err, that bite with their teeth and preach peace. And if a man give not something into their mouth, they prepare war against him. Therefore night shall be to you instead of vision, and darkness to you instead of divination. And the sun shall go down upon the prophets, and the day shall be darkened over them, and they shall be confounded that see visions, and the diviners shall be confounded, and they shall all cover their faces, because there is no answer of God. But yet I am filled with the strength of the Spirit of the Lord, with judgment and power, to declare unto Jacob his wickedness, and to Israel his sin. Sins of princes, priests, and prophets. See, everybody is judged differently, and you really wouldn't want it any other way. Hear this, ye princes of the house of Jacob. This is so timely. And ye judges of the house of Israel, you that abhor judgment and pervert all that is right, you that build up Sion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity. Her princes have judged for bribes, and her priests have taught for hire, and her prophets divined for money. And they leaned upon the Lord, saying, Is not the Lord in the midst of us? No evil shall come upon us. Therefore, because of you, Sion shall be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall be as a heap of stones, and the mountain of the temple as the high places of the forests. Okay. So again, God always warned to people, but then there is to be resolution, reconciliation. Chapter 4, Sion to be exalted, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be prepared in the top of mountains and high above the hills, and people shall flow to it. Are we just going to start is the Exodus up? The Bible is a map, man. I know it is. And many nations shall come in haste and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth out of Sion, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into spades. Nation shall not take sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. That's also in Isaiah. Okay, this is wild, guys. Listen to this. I shared on the community tab a verse earlier, and that verse was in that episode. And it was weird. It was an episode about aliens, or actually angels, they found out they were. And the Holy Spirit fell upon them, and they all understood each other, even though they were speaking different languages. Just to prove gift of the tongues does not mean babbling. For the millionth time, you all are getting dark spirits attached to you. And I know because you got one attached to me for a little short period of time that I had to get rid of. I'm not even going to get into that now. I'll just say don't let people lay hands on you, even if you're just trying to test them or be nice. Just don't let them. Anyways, that verse right there, and no longer shall they make war. That was in that episode, and Skinner was in there, the character, and so was the smoking man. And it was an episode about aliens, so it was wild. It was from 2008. But it was an episode, it's only an hour, and if you can check it out, you should. I think this is what I'll retitle the video, and I'll let it set for a few days, because I don't usually do much on Shabbat, on Sabbath, unless it's to do a prayer on the other channel. So anyway, nation shall not take sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And every man shall sit under his vine, and under his fig tree, and there shall be none to make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God, but we will walk in the name of the Lord our God, forever and ever. In that day, saith the Lord, I will gather up her that halteth, and her that I had cast out I will gather up, and her whom I had afflicted, and I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that hath been afflicted a mighty nation. And the Lord will reign over them in Mount Zion from this time now and forever. There's always a promise at the end, right? Zion to arise after defeat of enemies. And this is chapter 4:8. And thou, O cloudy tower of the flock of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come. Yea, the first power shall come, the kingdom to the daughter of Jerusalem. Now why art thou drawn together with grief? Hast thou no king in thee? Or is it thy counselor perished, because sorrow hath taken thee as a woman in labor? Be in pain and labor, O daughter of Sion, as a woman that bringeth forth. For now shalt thou go out of the city, and shall dwell in the country, and shall come even to Babylon. There thou shalt be delivered. There the Lord will redeem thee out of the hand of thy enemies. And now many nations are gathered together against thee, and they say, Let her be stoned, and let her eye look upon Sion. But they have not known the thoughts of the Lord, and have not understood his counsel, because he hath gathered them together as the hay of the floor. Arise and tread, O daughter of Sion, for I will make thy horn iron, and thy hoofs I will make brass. And thou shalt beat in pieces many peoples, and shall immolate the spoils of them to the Lord, and their strength to the Lord of the whole earth. Okay, so going back just to give you a brief summary, verse 3, neither shall they learn. The law of Christ is a law of peace, and always true subjects, as much as lies in them, love and keep peace with all the world. Verse 1, daughter of the robber. Some understand this of Babylon, which robbed and pillaged the temple of God. Others understand it as Jerusalem, by reason of the many rapines and oppression committed there. Okay, so the next one is the prophecy of the birth of Christ. So I'm going to stop there. That was Micah. That was up to chapter 4. And I might do 6 books of Daniel coming up, but I might wait. Again, I don't know when the literal spirit will hit me, but I'm going to say my prayers and go to bed, hopefully. And I will be praying for Florida and people in the path of the hurricane. So many people say they're just fine. A lot of other people say they're not. So it rains on the just and unjust. All I can do from here is pray for those people. And so if you can do anything, donating of your time is just as worthy a cause as sending money if you don't have that, and at least you know where your prayers are going. You don't know where your money is going. But I will be praying for them. If anyone out there is listening and you're the praying kind, I could use some. My children could use some. My husband could use some. We could all use some here in Northeast Ohio. And it is kicking up some rain here again. So I am going to try and get some rest. I hope that you have a good evening, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for being here and spending your time with me. Bye.